What's up, YouTube? This is Too Raw for TV. All right, so before I get into this video, I want to give a shout out to the brother Aaron for the donation to the channel via the PayPal. And I saw your donation today for a different request. I'll get to that video tomorrow. This is the request from yesterday, I think it was. So he says, Oscar Robertson is higher on my all-time list than Jerry West, Pistol Pete, Allen Iverson, and Rick Barry. Oscar is number 6 on my all-time list, but in your opinion, was he a better pure aggressive scorer than the other guys I mentioned? Or is he comparable to a modern day guy like Westbrook? Thanks, Mike. Well, I know a lot of people are going to make the comparison between him and Russell Westbrook. They both fill up the stat sheet. They both got a lot of triple-doubles. Matter of fact, it was Oscar Robertson who used to be the official all-time leader in triple-doubles until Russell Westbrook passed him a few years ago. In my opinion, if you're talking about style of play, well, there's similarities, but the way they approached the game, I thought was a little bit different. A little bit different. Look, Russ was a lot more frenetic, and is a lot more frenetic. He's energy and passion and hustle and hard work, I guess you want to call it that, personified. You know, he's somebody that will always come out there and give his all. Oscar, to me, played hard, but he was a little bit more methodical and a lot more cerebral than Russ. Okay? But he did all the same similar things, you know, getting rebounds, scoring at a high level, passing at a high level. Matter of fact, I could argue that Oscar was a better passer than Russ. While Russ did get a lot of triple-doubles, Oscar was probably a lot better at protecting the basketball. And back then, certain things that are called assists today would not fly back then. Back then, the pass had to lead directly to a score. Oftentimes, the guy had to be catching the ball in the post and then almost immediately going up for a score and convert. Or if you pass it to a guy in the backcourt, pass to a teammate for a jump shot, they have to be going into the shot. They couldn't even really take a dribble. Most of the times, even if they just took a dribble, it's not considered an assist back then. Now guys get a pass, dribble, step back, shoot, and it's called an assist. That wasn't an assist back in the 60s or the 70s or really a lot of the 80s. They started laxing in the 80s. But yeah, if Oscar Robertson was playing today, man, my goodness, the man would average probably in those same games, things that are called assists today, he would have probably averaged 12 assists a game for his career instead of 9.5, whatever it was. But we're talking about offense, okay? First of all, Oscar was a lot more efficient than Russ. Russ is, 43% or so? Oscar was 48.5% for his career. As a matter of fact, the first 10 years of Oscar Robertson's career, let's see if I can get this. He shot 48.9% for his career. 48.9. First 11 years, 49%. So that's even better than Jerry West. Now, West took a few more outside shots, than Oscar. I haven't seen a lot of footage of Oscar, but from reading about him from his contemporaries, he was more of a mid-range and sometimes inside guy because he was a big guard. He was very big for his era, 6'5". He'd be a decent sized guard today. He'd be about the size of James Harden, a little bit sturdier. So he's about 6'5", 220, which is probably the equivalency of being a guard 6'8", 260, maybe. He was huge. He was a locomotive back then. So, you know, but he wasn't just doing what LeBron does, which is get a lot of uncontested baskets on the inside. He just had the bulk to sometimes withstand the contact, to still have the strength to go over guys and score, even with big men down low. Now, Wilt Chamberlain and Nate Thurman and Artis Gilmore, even though Gilmore wasn't in the NBA then, but those guys, that's an exception. You know what I'm saying? They're just too goddamn strong. But he could score over those other guys, and maybe not Bill Russell, but he could score over those guys. But he was a mid-range master. Remember, Phil Jackson said that the guards that he said had the best mid-range games that he ever saw were Michael Jordan and Oscar Robertson. And Phil Jackson was the coach of Michael Jordan. And we know how great Michael was with the mid-range jam. So that tells you what type of offensive player Oscar Robertson was. Now, he never led the league in scoring. You know, Jerry West led the league in scoring one year. Pete Maravich led the league. Matter of fact, I think Oscar led it, West led it in 69-70, I think it was. But the only reason why he probably did lead it is because Wilt Chamberlain got hurt, because initially Wilt was going to be the first option for Lakers that year. But anyway, he led the league in 69-70, I think it was, 31.2. Pistol Pete Maravich led it in, I think, 76-77, 31.1. Iverson won 3 scoring titles. Rick Barry won an NBA scoring title and led the ABA in scoring and led the NCAA in scoring. So they're some of the most prolific scorers. Oscar was more prolific as far as, or more, I should say, more efficient, although they were more prolific in scoring. Oscar also had other duties to perform in those teams. You know what I'm saying? This is a guy that was often, let me check some out here. Let me go to the mid-range point of his career. Let me go to his MVP season. I think his MVP year was 64-65, but someone could correct me if I'm wrong. It might have been 63-64, but I think it was 64-65. So I want to check something out here. This is the Royals, and this is Oscar in his prime. That season, Oscar Robertson averaged 30.4 points per game. The second scorer on that team was Jerry Lucas, 21.4. Third scorer, Adrian Smith, 15.1. So Oscar put in a lot of work offensively. He averaged 30 points per game and didn't lead the NBA in scoring. So, you gotta remember, Wilt Chamberlain was playing for much of Oscar's prime, as was Rick Barry. These guys were going to make sure he didn't lead the league in scoring. But he also averaged 9 rebounds per game, which was third on the team behind Jerry Lucas with ridiculous 20 and Wayne Embry with 10. He averaged 11.5 assists, which is almost 4 times as many as the second leading guy on the team, Adrian Smith. So he was doing a lot, man. And he was getting to the line 10.6 times a game. So he was expending a lot of energy offensively, getting to the foul line. He shot 793 free throws, made 665, shot 84% from the line. grabbed 674 rebounds, dished out 861 assists. I don't know how many steals and blocks he had, but he probably got, I would guess at least 150, 160, 170 steals. Probably blocked about 40 shots. Shot 48% from the floor. I mean, he was doing so much, so it's hard for him to focus purely on scoring because he's doing all these other things. But the fact that he had the energy to go out and not just score 30 points per game, but also dish out 11 assists, which means that he was responsible or indirectly responsible for, what is that, 52 to 53 points per game. 53 points per game when you include assists. Without a three-point shot. So he's putting out a lot of energy, not to mention on the defensive end. Now, he was never as great a defender as Jerry West, but he was good. He was decent. These guys, I have so much respect for these guys in the 50s and 60s because of what they were having to do on a nightly basis. They weren't playing with these spaced out seasons. Oftentimes, their season started, I think, right after Thanksgiving and ended in March. And they played 80 games. They didn't have chartered flights. They had to fly commercial just like everybody else. Having to deal with racism. And they had especially beginning their careers, the regular stresses of financial burdens. And they weren't millionaires. They couldn't go out and go to a strip club and blow $50,000 and not think about it. They still had to budget themselves. Now, by the 1960s, most of these guys didn't have to have secondary jobs, but they still were not rich. Wilt Chamberlain made it possible for these guys to make six figures. But they weren't rich. They were well off. They were Jefferson living fabulously. Jefferson comfortable, I guess I should say George Jefferson, but they weren't millionaires. So, at the end of the day, I don't get a little off subject here, but offensively, no, I don't think Russell Westbrook is in Oscar Robertson's league offensively. We see his shot selection. We see that despite the fact that he obviously works on his three-point shot, it's not getting much better. Mechanics are off. Whatever the case may be, Russ has not really improved as an offensive player. Matter of fact, you can make an argument that his jump shot has kind of deteriorated a little bit. To me, when he was younger, his mid-range was a little bit more dependable. Remember, he had a little bit of a bank shot at one point. Those things are kind of deteriorated. Oscar Robertson worked on his craft, and he became a great scorer. Even as he lost his athleticism as he got older, I mean, did he ever shoot under 46% from the floor? Well, okay, his last year he shot 43.8%. So that's low by his standards. But still, that's what Russell Westbrook shoots for his career on average. So, offensively, I can't say that he's as prolific a scorer as those other guys, but when need be, if that's what they needed from him, he could do that. Let's go to that 64-65 season for a second. Let's see if they have these numbers up here. Okay. So that season, he only had 4 games in which he scored between 10 and 19 points. 30 of those games, this is the consistency of Oscar Robertson. 30 of those games, he scored between 20 and 29 points. 32 of those games, 30 to 39 points. He had 7 games of 40 to 49 points. And twice he scored 50 or more. And I believe his career high is 56. So he definitely could score. But the difference is he was amazingly consistent offensively, amazingly consistent with his performances. He wasn't an up and down erratic performer. You know what I'm saying? And usually when he did take a lot of shots, he had it going those nights. I'm looking right now that season, trying to see the most shots he took in a game. So far it's 35. Okay, one game he took 40. So one game he took 40 shots. He didn't shoot well that night. As a matter of fact, this was one of the worst shooting nights of his season. He shot 15 for 40, 37 points, 12 rebounds, 9 assists, 5 fouls. Okay, and that was against the Knicks. Okay. So I don't know if was Walt Clyde Frazier. No, I don't think he was. Was he in the NBA yet? Yeah, he was in the NBA. So I don't know if Walt Clyde had got some time on or whatever, but he shot bad that night. But 2 nights before that, he scored 50 against the Sixers. 17 and 32 shooting, 16 and 16 from the line, 50 points, 13 rebounds, 1 assist. So that's a night where he was purely a scorer. So when he's focused on scoring, he could do that. But oftentimes, being the fact that he was the one guy on that team that was a consistent scorer, I mean, Lucas could score, but as far as night in and night out versatility scoring, it was Oscar. So oftentimes he couldn't just focus purely on scoring. He had other things to do. Now that's where he's similar to Russell Westbrook. After KD left, Russ upped it scoring. He upped his scoring, which he had to do because he didn't have guys around who could score. So the fact that Oscar Robertson could do what he was doing on a nightly basis, get other guys involved, make guys around him better, help out with rebounding, play defense on the perimeter. I think he was a help defender. It would make sense since he was a big guard, strong hands, and able to break down the defense and get to the basket and all those different things, mid-range J, ISO scoring, but then also, you know what I'm saying, having to be the team leader, deal with the pressures of society. I mean, just amazing guy, man. But anyway, that's pretty much how I feel about this. Tell me what you guys think.